Kevin Holland versus Makhmud Muradov. We got minus 155 on Kevin Holland and plus 135 on Makhmud. The line movement has been interesting since it dropped. So BetOnline dropped this pretty much as a pick'em. Then we saw heavy steamage towards Kevin Holland up to the minus 220 range, and now we're finally seeing it settle roughly around that minus 150, minus 160 range, which kind of makes sense. So on initial look, this was a spot that I thought that it was going to be prime for Makhmud Muradov. I liked his style and everything that I could remember up until that point of him, but once you really start to dust off the tape, you kind of get a better understanding. And you got to put a little bit of an asterisk on both of his first two UFC fights, as both of them were on short notice. The D Carrico fight he took on 2 weeks, the Trevor Smith fight he took on 3 weeks notice, and now this one he was actually scheduled to fight. I got to make sure I get this name right before I blow it. So he was supposed to fight Krzysztof Jotko, and then Jotko had to pull out, and in steps Kevin Holland on short notice. So it's him on the other side now. He was the one getting prepared for this fight for a while, and then his opponent gets switched up on him. I'm not sure how much that would really hurt him in terms of his preparations here, but at least we know that he can get his cardio and his stamina and his durability on point. Something that we did notice and see in the Di Carrico fight was that he started to look like he was gassing in that third round. That's something that was a little bit of a concern. But once you actually realize that, yeah, he did take that fight on relatively short notice, it makes sense as to why he was starting to gas. We did see a little bit better of a gas tank in that Trevor Smith fight, but just as, there's one thing that really helps a fighter's cardio, and that's confidence. And when you know that you're doing very well against a fighter for, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, your cardio is going to look good after that amount of time, because you're not exerting too much energy, you're not stressing yourself, things are going good, so you're able to go out there and just implement your game plan without much worries. So I'm wondering, in this fight against Kevin Holland, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to really get set and actually build that confidence, because you really notice from Muradov, he's a little bit of a slower starter. He tries to, pop the 1-2 out there, pop the jab out there, get a little bit of a feel of the range and the movement of his opponents, and then he really starts to open up. But he does rely heavily on his power 1-2 down the middle just to blitz, and more often than not, it lands very well. But he does a really good job of switching up the target of his as well too, whether it's the 1 to the face and then the 2 to the body, or the 1 to the body and the 2 to the face. He does a really good job of that. And then obviously that combination that he finished Trevor Smith with, that was set up from, a couple minutes before that, where he just continuously, followed up that 1 to the body. So that's what he did in this, in that finishing sequence against Trevor Smith. He lands the 1 to the face, rips a 2 to the body, and then he sees Trevor Smith bring his guard down, and he follows back over with the right hook, and which pretty much puts out Trevor Smith on the spot. Beautiful, beautiful sequence and beautiful finish there, and even more beautiful fight IQ to be able to line that up and really set that up for a couple minutes, not just that one. It just wasn't that one exchange that allowed him to get the finish. It was a momentous build up into that point to get Trevor Smith to react in certain ways so that he could open up the head some more. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult with Kevin Holland, though, because Kevin Holland, I feel like, won't allow those moments for Muradov to get comfortable, and those moments that he takes to reset after every single combination. We'll see a little bit more of a pushback from Kevin Holland than we did in the Trevor Smith fight. He likes to flash the front kick up the middle, whether it's to the face or to the body, whether it's a teep to the knee. Kevin Holland is throwing, some solid shots from like weird angles and unorthodox distances. So that's something that Muradov is going to have to, keep an eye on for this fight. I do think the technical striker and the better striker is Makhmud. He shows solid boxing skills. He does a good job of bringing his leg kicks up as well when he does want to finish combinations with head kicks. I would like to see him throw in a little bit more combinations. The 1-2 is nice and all that, but showing off what he did in that Trevor Smith fight in terms of setting traps and then eventually exploiting them later in fights, I think he could do something like that against a guy like Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland seems to do well in terms of picking up on obvious patterns. There was an obvious pattern that Darren Stewart was trying to get going in their last fight, where he was just continuously attacking the knee with kind of like a knee stomp. It was kind of of weird. But Kevin Holland started time and then was able to counter precisely and do solid damage on Darren Stewart there. We did see a little bit of a flaw from Kevin Holland in that third round against Darren Stewart when Stewart was able to successfully get the fight to the ground. And, he did some solid work from on top. I was kind of, I was let down in terms of Kevin Holland's ability to get back to his feet, retain guard, and the lack of offensive jiu-jitsu we really saw off of his back, considering he's such a high-level jiu-jitsu player. We have seen glimpses of Muradov's ability to mix up the MMA game with getting fights to the ground. And I think if he wants to, he could get Kevin Holland to the ground. I'm not 100% sure what the top game of Muradov currently looks like, but if he's able to control Kevin Holland and do some good damage on top, he could definitely steal some rounds and some minutes there. Again, I do think he's a much better technical striker. My concern here is what the disruption of Kevin Holland will do to Muradov's game. Again, Kevin Holland's not going to go out there and pull a Trevor Smith and allow Makhmud to really get going and get his combinations together. So if Makhmud's really not successful in doing that, is he going to be able to open up with the combinations, which makes him a little bit more deadlier and it really sets him apart from his opponent? I do like him as a dog. I do think that we'll see some more money start to come in on Kevin Holland as fight week continues. But I'm gonna sit back a little bit and see where that line goes, because I do like Muradov. I might bet him. I'm not 100% sure yet. But again, the unorthodox nature of Kevin Holland disrupting the flow of Muradov might be a little bit too much for Muradov. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I do think skill for skill, Makhmud should absolutely go out there and win this fight. If he is able to really get going with the body shots, that's something that we saw Joaquin Buckley quite successful with against Kevin Holland, was really, landing some good shots to the body. And there were some awkward exchanges where Kevin Holland had some weird striking defense where he's just, he's covering up like this, which is great and all that. And then there was certain instances where he's like jumping to kind of like get out of the way. That's not proper striking defense. You got to be cutting angles. You can't just be backing up straight up. You got to start moving in certain directions, certain angles to really get out of the way of these big shots. So, seeing some of those striking defense deficiencies from Kevin Holland is a little bit concerning. But it's worked for him up until this point. The last time he did lose was against Brendan Allen, but since then he's put together 3 solid straight victories. This one I think might be the toughest test for him, though, because I do think Muradov is a very dangerous opponent. So I will go with Muradov to win this fight via decision. I think he will end up getting off the better shots, do some solid work to the body, as long as the disruption of the weird unorthodox timing and angles that Holland throws out there, as long as he's able to withstand that and able to endure that, I think he should be able to get into his rhythm, really start getting those body shots going, and then mix it up to the head. He has some powerful striking, some beautiful hands. His grappling is slowly starting to come to fruition. So hopefully that's something that he can kind of flash in this fight. Really keep Holland on the edge of his, on the tip of his toes, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I love Makhmud here. I think he gets it done via decision by just outstriking Kevin Holland for 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Makhmud via decision.